All right, welcome to the bright future of dentistry, how AI creates better care, bigger profits, and happier dentists. Here's a little bit about me. That's enough about me. All you need to know is I'm outstanding in my field. Not actually my field, that's my grandma's field. Here's my grandma outside of her field of expertise. Yeah, amazing lady. This is Kokomo, Indiana. She lived to be 105 years old. Pretty cool. We'll talk more about her later. So if you like something I say today and you want to tweet it, just say Brian Carter said it. If you don't like something I say, let's say Mark Cuban said it. Yeah. That one resonates here. Okay, cool. So by a show of hands, how many of you are here today? Oh, okay, we're going to work on that. Half of you. Okay. How many of you just really like raising your hands? It's fun. Yeah. Maybe after a few cocktails you'll try. And if you're codependent, come raise my hand. Now we're all healthy. That's good. Right on. Okay, so this is the CEU code for this. I'll say it again at the end. It's 640. Let me give you an overview of what we're going to talk about here in this session. So we're going to talk about what I call the best of both worlds, which is AI and people. How do we put them together, right? We got adapting to innovation, the power of AI, building stronger bonds with people, and then putting it all together, how do AI and people work together, especially in dentistry. So I'm going to do a lot of lecture here, but there's going to be a little bit of your participation, some one-on-one back and forth stuff, and I will ask for some submissions from you guys and maybe even write it on this amazing dry erase board. Can I get a round of applause for the dry erase board? Thank you. Thank you. Good job. You're doing a good job there. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to balance AI with uniquely human skills, and we'll start with this. We're different at different ages, right? Like in your 20s, you're like, let's do some shit. In your 30s, you're like, let's buy some shit. In your 40s, you're like, well, we sure did some shit. In your 50s, if you're a woman, you're like, I'm hot as shit. If you're a man, you're like, what happened to my shit? In your 60s, you're like, why can't I shit? In your 70s, you're like, I can't remember shit. Actually, that might be in the 50s, because that's where I'm at on it. In your 80s, you're like, I'm old as shit. I know what happens in your 90s, but if you make it to your 100s, you're like, shit, I'm on the Today Show. There she is again. This is my wife, my grandma, and it's genetic. This is why I could not take a serious photo until I was 40. Make weird faces. But the point is, we all know that in life and business, right, and in your practice, the more we personalize to each patient, the better results we get. People love it. And AI can help empower and enhance that as well. Talk about that. So here's an interesting one. This is a study, a research article from the Journal of Personalized Medicine. And it talks about the emergence and the impact of personalized sleep medicine. Interesting article. And a lot of this stuff is recent. So this came out in June this year. And it talks about how to use genetics, lifestyle, circadian rhythms, data analysis, biomarkers, pharmacogenetics, pharmacotherapy, wearable devices, Internet of Things type stuff to monitor people, stress management, and of course, cognitive behavioral therapy. All things that we can put together in treating sleep. And I'm sure you guys work with other types of doctors on that as well. But to do well with people, we need to figure out what people like. So I went to social media, a lot of liking there, right? So I did some research on social media. I did a double-blind placebo-controlled trial survey analysis. Not really possible, but here's what I came up with. Social media is comprised of social and media. Pretty cool. Pretty proud of that research. Yeah, but it didn't illustrate my point, so I made you guys a pie chart. Yeah. 50% social, 50% media. That means it's 50%, hey, I like you, and 50%, look at this funny cat. He's got a mustache. Pretty cool, right? And he even had a kid, also with a mustache. I love all the ahs. All right. So the point is, the more people like you, the more influence you have with them, right? It's the same whether you have a relationship, a significant other, kids, if they like you more, you can influence them more, right? And also in your practice. This is, I was getting ready to do a keynote for a bunch of McDonald's franchise owners in Iowa. And leading up to that, the type of research I did was go to McDonald's and eat there. That was my excuse, research. And this lady, she takes my order. I drive around. She takes my money. And she looks at me. She says, you have the most beautiful blue eye. I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. Now, apart from my narcissism, my point is that she gave me a compliment, right? It made me feel good about me, about her, about McDonald's in general, about that particular McDonald's, right? This is one great way to be likable, is just compliments. They're so simple, right? But when's the last time that you did it, right? So right now, I want you to turn to the person next to you and give a compliment and then receive one. Did you get one, Dan? Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you. You are as well. All right, how'd that feel? Did that feel good? Good feeling? Right on. Cool. So I want to teach you guys how not to compliment because I'm concerned about you. What you should not do, you shouldn't tell someone, hey, I really like your hairline. Not a good one. I love how your nose whistles when you breathe. Not a great one. Oh, wow, you finally got those teeth fixed. That's an interesting one. Now, that's a big day for that person, so I think we should celebrate. Yeah. All right. So, weird thing about being in comedy, still doing a lot of comedy, and I just turned 51. But sometimes people are like, Brian, you're 51, grow up. I'm like, no, I think if I was meant to be a grown-up, I'd be at least 5'9". And I'm 5'8", and I had to lie to say that. Not cool to lie, right? Because we know that it erodes trust, and trust is the foundation of relationships. Right? So it's true with everything, like whether it's business or it's like your loved ones, we have to have trust, create trust, and never lose it. But there's some cool research out there from a company called the Rare Group. They asked a bunch of customers, why did you choose the company that you worked with? Why did you choose this company? They were allowed to choose multiple things. 83% said, I trust them. 86% said, I like them. So we know trust is fundamental, but maybe being likable is even more important. Harvard Business Review did a study of 51,000 leaders. They found that in the dislike leaders, only 1 out of 2,000 disliked leaders was able to be effective at leadership. Bless you. So it's important. The more you commit to what people like, the more they commit to you. Anybody heard of the emotional bank account? It's cool. I always get like 1 to 5% of people heard of this, but it's a really powerful concept. The idea is that every time you are hanging out with someone, whether that's work or life, you're either making a deposit or a withdrawal. You're either giving or taking. Right? We know this. We don't want to be takers, right? And we want to give to people, invest in them as much as possible. And I'll tell you why. Because sometimes stuff goes wrong. Sometimes stuff outside of your control went wrong, and you still got to keep that relationship. You got to keep that customer, right? So the more you invest in people, the more benefit of the doubt they'll give you, right? They'll stick with you. So things like listening, validating, helping, that's a deposit. That's investing in people. And then withdrawals, things like interrupting, arguing, neglecting. There are many other advanced examples, but this is something to think about all the time. And with every person that you work with, how am I investing in this person? How am I making these deposits? Cool. So how do we fit AI to patients and to your practice? I'll tell you a story first. This is my dad and my sister when she was 3 months pregnant, and me photobombing them. Trying to get attention, just like right now. All right. So I used to make this mistake. I started doing stand-up comedy in 2006, and I would call my dad on the phone when I had new joke ideas. One time I did that, he wasn't laughing at anything. I was like, why aren't you laughing? He was like, well, why don't you work on those jokes, and I'll work on my laughing. I was like, why don't you work on being a better father? But I said it after we hung up. And that is an old phone motion. Okay. That doesn't really mean, what are you doing? I don't know. Okay. So not long after that, we're hanging out with my grandma. She was 102 years old at the time. And I told her that story. I said, but Grandma, people really do laugh at my jokes. She turned to me, she said, people do stupid things. Thanks, Grandma. Nice family we got here, right? But here's the problem. It's kind of hard to stand out with your family because they've known you forever. Maybe they get a little tired of you, right? But we got to stand out, in the market. We got to stand out. You guys got to stand out as dentists. Like, why should they choose you over another one? We have competition. So how do we stand out? Problem is people are listening to WII-FM. You know what that is? What's in it for me, right? So why should people care about you or your practice? Well, what do people value? If we look at what people value and we connect that to what you offer, then we can get more attention, get clients, keep clients, right? So what do people want? People want to have high quality experiences, right? Like this. You guys are doing it up here. And people like bacon. That's Kevin Bacon made out of bacon. Yeah. Bacon's good for you guys. I'm just kidding. It's not verified by research, but I believe it. All right. People want to feel a sense of awe. They love awesome experiences. People like babies. Now, I think we should wrap babies in bacon. Yeah. And people want to feel a sense of connection. They want to feel like they belong to something. They want to have fun. They want to put on a straw hat and carry around a woman wearing a 1980 swimsuit. Yeah. And they want to solve problems, right? So these are all important things. People value these things. Now, AI is going to be more valuable when it reflects what you value and your patients value, right? So we think, hey, we're going to solve this patient's problem. Well, that's great, but maybe other dentists can do that too. So how are you going to stand out, right? Are you having any fun? Are you a fun person? Are you creating a sense of belonging, creating connections, talking about how awesome things are, making the experience more awesome, and then delivering a high-quality experience? The more of that stuff you do, the more you stand out, right? And the more you keep these patients. Cool. So, anybody heard of the 5 love languages? That's cool. My wife taught me these. They're words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and get a job, you freaking loser. That was my wife's love language. Yeah, so I have like 3 jobs now. So anyway, things change. That's one example. But things in technology change, things in society change. We got to deal with it. We got to adapt, right? Here's Neil Young and Neil Old. That's a change. That's a change. Even pain changes, right? Like when you're young and you wake up in pain, you're like, what'd I do yesterday? Oh, that's what it was. When you're old and you wake up in pain, you're like, I didn't do anything yesterday. Fashion changes as well. Like, if you're looking for a picture of your grandma as a young woman today, you're going to find something like that, right? But what's going to happen in 2090? 2090, you look for a picture of your grandma as a young woman, you're going to find something like this. And it's going to confuse your kids. Right? Mom, why is grandma a dog? Am I going to be a dog? I don't know. All right. So there's this thing. We all know about the comfort zone. Well, you hear the comfort zone, you're like, oh yeah, I know what the comfort zone is. Thing is, we don't always know when we're in our comfort zone and resisting change. That's not how we think of it. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. Right? It's like, I'm in my comfort zone. But the truth is that a lot of times, to get where you want to go in life or business, you got to go through this river of pain. Stuff that's uncomfortable, unfamiliar, difficult, right? But thing is, you can actually get better at doing difficult things, right? There's some research, cognitive research, that says that there's a part of our brain that is either good at or not good at confronting difficult situations, right? So actually, the more stuff you make yourself do that's difficult, the better you get at that. Now, this is me. This is where I grew up. I have a story from when I was 2 years old. We lived in this house on the left in Dayton, Ohio. So I'm very familiar with Columbus, Ohio. It's cool. We would go to Columbus because Dayton sucked. Anyway, so I lived in this house on the left with my family and parents. On the house on the right, we had this old German lady named Hilda, who every time I went over there, she would give me cheese crackers and 7-Up. It was my favorite thing in the world at 2 years old. Cheese and crackers, 7-Up. Right. So one day, I'm in the house at home, and my mom's like, Ryan, you got to take a bath. I'm like, no, I'm 2 years old. I don't want a bath. Right? So she says, well, we bought you these toys, but you can't have them until you take the bath. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, so she goes off to run the bath, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't want a bath. You know what I want? I want cheese and crackers and 7-Up. So I went next door to Hilda's, knocked on the door. She opens the door, but not the screen door, and gets on the phone and calls my mom and says, Brian, do you know, or Mary, do you know Brian's over here and he's naked? Not good. So my mom came and got me. I had to take the bath, got the toys. Again, it's like we all know sometimes to get what we want, we have to do things we don't want to do. But it's something to focus on. Ask yourself, like, what's the most difficult thing that I did in the last year, right? What's something I chose to do that was difficult, right? Working out is one of those right now. I have a personal trainer now. She's Russian, and she makes me do things. It's like, you know, Russians are really good at that. She's like really blunt, but she's also really positive. And I would never do these workouts. I would never do all of them. I would cheat on them. I would never finish them. And she's always pushing me, right? And that's what I needed. I need that. It costs money, but it's an investment in myself. And what I learned was I was kind of a wimp. I was a whiner. I would whine. Even in my head, I'm whining while we're doing it, you know? And I got to the point where I was like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And the other day, she's like, let's do this new thing. It was, of course, new things are always difficult. And I was doing it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, I was like, oh, I realized I like was enjoying, I was enjoying dropping things. Because it's fun. I'll probably do it again. I was enjoying doing difficult things. And that was a huge shift for me, right? So it's something to think about. You know, is your muscle of dealing with difficulty and change atrophied, or are you working on it? So I want to ask you guys, just for some volunteer, somebody volunteer, how have you gotten out of your comfort zone to take your practice and your patients further? Moment of truth. Say what?
I said, don't everybody yell at once.
Oh yeah. Okay, then you're up.
For me, it was actually presenting big cases and expensive dentistry patients. That was out of my comfort zone.
Presenting big cases?
Yeah, and the financial part of it was out of my comfort zone.
Got it. Financial part. So you had to spend money.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody likes to do that. That's a good one. Anybody else? Let's get like two more. All right.
Starting social media accounts and sharing what you do.
Oh, starting social media. So you have to share your stuff, yourself on social media?
Yes.
Yeah, that can be.
For me.
Yeah, do it more personalized social media stuff.
Yeah, more personalized. Okay, so yeah, so people can really connect with you emotionally. Yeah, and that's a lot of what I'm talking about here too, is, you know, there's a kind of vulnerability. Some of the stories that I tell up here, well, if I get a laugh, I'm cool with it, right? But it's not easy necessarily. So that's a good one. So being vulnerable in social media to create connections. Awesome. One more.
Public speaking.
Public speaking.
Social media, like videos and things. Interact with your patients.
Gotcha. So, yeah. So they say that most people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy, you know. I think that's a Seinfeld joke or something, right? But it helps. I mean, yeah, it's not always easy. I went to Toastmasters for that stuff, you know, like year 2000. I was horrible. Like, I was horrible. There was a guy who said to me, you're probably pretty good talking to people one-on-one, but this is not for you. And so, you know, for that guy, I'm just going to, you can't see what I'm doing. Anyway, that's good stuff. Right on. So let's talk about innovation. Innovation, technology, this stuff is always happening. It's very important. It's a good way to work hard now and be lazy later, but it never works out that way because it creates more work and we have to do more stuff. But we're more capable when we have better lives in a lot of ways. So this self-driving cars are cool. We finally have self-driving car. All we had to do was set fire to $1 billion, you know, and now we got this self-driving car. It's almost ready. It's pretty good. But the taxi cab drivers have figured out they don't like the self-driving cars. If they put a traffic cone on the hood, it can't move. It stops, right? Yeah, great technology, guys, right? Yeah, needs a little more work, maybe a couple more $1 billion. Yeah. Anyway, this is, I don't know if you guys have used, anybody used ChatGPT for images? Yeah, sometimes it creates weird stuff. I was like, give me a history of innovation, and this is what I got. Like, evidently we're descended from like owl people, I don't know, on the left. And we have a problem with clothing in general. We also go from 1983 to 1028, I think, or is that 11,028, where we no longer wear pants? Anyway, that's what ChatGPT thought the history of innovation looked like. Yeah. So again, it's a work in progress. All this AI stuff. Yeah.
I just want to make a real quick announcement. If you're driving a Dodge Durango with a license plate AHB B27 that's in the shift 4, they're about to tow it.
Ooh.
FYI, sorry, I didn't want somebody to get their part. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Oh yeah, of course. I guess it's none of you guys. All right. So here's the history of innovation, right? We got tired of pushing around square rocks, and so we invented the wheel to get the ground to help out with things, right? We invented stairs, but we got tired of stairs, so we invented the elevator, which is cool. And then we went up, and we figured we need to invent a down button. There's a problem. You know, we're always learning new things. So AI, this is like an example, again, of giving like ChatGPT, like, hey, give me this image of this, right? I was like, show him going up in the elevator, you know, and it didn't really show a way to get down. So we have to give AI guidance. No matter what you work with, it's garbage in, garbage out, and that'll come up again and again. What is AI? I think it's pretty cool. You can open your phone with your face these days, right? Like if 40 years ago you said to somebody, hey man, I opened my phone with my face, they'd be like, cool, how many drinks did that take? A lot, by the way. So how does it open the phone to your face? Well, it's AI, it's machine learning, actually deep learning on all those different points on your face, right? Point being, 83% of people are already using AI and may not realize it. Because it's in your email spam filter, it's in Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, it's in what do you watch next on Netflix, Prime, and other channels. Those recommenders are machine learning, right? And then when you get directions with, say, Google Maps or Waze or whatever it is, it's not just giving you the stuff, the traffic right now. It also knows historically, this day of the week, this time of year, this time of day, what it was like, so it can predict. Like, it doesn't know where an accident's going to be, but it can sort of predict that kind of stuff, right? There's just a few popular apps and services up here that have already incorporated AI. I just kind of highlighted some of them, but these all have AI in them. You know, whether it's Salesforce, Shopify, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, Calendly, Asana, Hootsuite, they all have AI. Why? Because they're like, oh, we got AI too. Yeah, we just put it in yesterday, you know, because we're with it, right? So you may already be using it. You don't have to necessarily go out of your way to get it. But we will talk about it in dental practice, what you got to get as well, or some options at least. Now, we also have smart lights. We got smart doorbells, smart thermostats, smart rocks. You know, I got the smart rocks because the sales guy was like, hey, what if your gravel needs to roll 2 inches to the left? It could do it itself. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, because I wouldn't even know when that needed to happen. You know, so I got the smart rocks, and then they started texting me. They're like, look at us. I was like, okay, I'm looking at you. Are you doing something? They're like, nope, made you look. AI's got a sense of humor. Okay, it's a 4-year-old sense of humor. All right. So, how many people have used ChatGPT already? Cool. What about Gemini, Claude, some of the other ones, less known, but they're good at different things. Perplexity, you're going to love this one. Okay. I don't Google anymore for the most part. I perplex, or whatever that's called, right? Let me tell you what it is. It's called retrieval augmented generation. So that means like a lot of these ChatGPTs and stuff, they don't really go out to the web. They were trained on all this data, right? But now it's old. So you can go out onto the web right now and get the truth, right? Or maybe something more true, right? It's sort of a way to kind of ground the models in reality because they're not always accurate. So Perplexity, for example, I can search for what are the latest advances in dental advances for sleep apnea. It searches a bunch of different sources, right? You can see what those are if you want. And then it gives you this summary. So in like seconds, you've got the summary of 10 to 20 different sources, right? That it's read, right? So stuff that would take you like an hour to get and summarize yourself in Google, it'll give you. And I don't know if you guys agree, but I think Google's search results have gotten a lot worse than they used to be. There's a lot of junk. And it takes time to sort through all that, right? And so I said, what's the latest in AI, machine learning, deep learning for TMD and OSA? I get this, right? More stuff from different sources. Now some of those sources are PubMed, NIH, and there's some interesting stuff there. Now, when it comes though to research, science, medicine, I use this one. It's called Site, SCITE. Perplexity.ai. And it only uses research sources, okay? So you can do a search like pretty much same search we did, which is how does AI, machine learning, deep learning help with OSA and TMD? And it'll go through all these different sources and probably look at 50 different research papers, summaries, reviews, etc. And then it will check for quality. It'll check to see which ones have the most citations. It'll check which ones disagree with others, what seems to be the majority opinion based on all those papers, and give you this response with all of the sources, right? And again, it takes what? 10 seconds, 15 seconds, right? Yeah. So I love Site. Okay, so apart from that, we talked about ChatGPT, other things. I would love to hear just some examples of what you guys have used AI for in your, it could be your life, like later I'm going to talk about how to use it for cooking. It could be in business, it could be dental. Anybody want to volunteer how you've used it? Go ahead in the back there.
To come up with instructions for how to use different things in the office for our team.
How to use different what?
Like different equipment in the office, like how do you operate the MD-11? Like how do you...
Ah.
So we don't have to start from blank. It's a good outline to start this directions.
Yeah, how to use equipment. What did you use for that?
ChatGPT.
Nice. Okay. And it gave you good answers.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do some human editing, obviously, but it sure gives you a good starting point.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't even use, like I don't go to a website's help section anymore. Like we do advertising for clients too. I don't go to Google Ads help section anymore. I ask Perplexity, you know, and it researches for me, gives the answer. It's way quicker because all the help sections and all these different things are different, you know, and sometimes you can't find the thing you're looking for. What's another example? Go ahead.
Well, this sounds bad, but when I do a lecture for the LVI people, I've used it, and I'll ask it to dummy down a concept to an 8th grade level. And then it'll take something like in longevity that I'll do or something, and it'll change my verbiage to like really minimize it so it's not like over the top.
Right.
I'll add to it.
That's awesome.
You guys are welcome. I gave you the 8th grade level.
The thing is, it's cool because like really there's less cognitive load. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm trying to learn. I've spent the last year and a half looking at AI, and even the last 6 months trying to learn to program it with Python. And there's so much jargon, just like there is in any field. You know.
I mean, you could do this with your patients, like
Yeah.
how to explain TMD. Do it in an 8th grade level, and what it comes up with, then you would use it, and it's just a simple way of describing it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's that quick, right? So I mean, you know, people are worried we'll stop like having our ability to do that kind of stuff, but it is like you really in a day have so much mental energy, right? So what do you want to use it for? And that's why I think that's so brilliant. Let me get one more. How have you used? Yeah, Jake.
Ideas for like patient appreciation. Like what can you do for patients to show your
Cool.
appreciation?
Yeah, what can you do to show patients appreciation? What did it come up with?
Like running different contests and giveaways.
Contest giveaways.
Yeah, or like events that you could have after hours.
Events.
Something like that.
After hours events. Patients getting drunk, not a good thing. I'm just kidding. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Anyway, those are great examples. Thanks, guys. Let's talk about a little AI terminology. I'm not going to get super geeky with you, but let's just look, for example, at algorithm versus artificial intelligence. That's a good one to know. It's going to be important to know the difference in the future. Right now, people don't know it. But an algorithm is like a recipe. You're like, do this in this order, right? Instructions. That's an algorithm, right? That's all it is. AI is like a cook or a chef that kind of knows what to do, right? Can just kind of be flexible, adaptive, improvise, right? We had this for a while, this, you know, and everybody, it was before the lockdown stuff, but we had this boxed meal kit called Peach Dish out of Atlanta that was incredible, so good. But the thing is, it wasn't easy. It was like if you wanted to make fancy stuff from all these different cultures, all these different foods you never made, and like the stuff that I learned from doing that, and my wife did it together, so it was a great like bonding experience. But the stuff, I still use the stuff that I learned from that. Now I can improvise with the stuff I'm making, and I use things that they did, you know, different little concepts and food combinations and stuff. So you get that ability to do a little more than just follow the recipe, right? Machine learning, that's like the recipe. For example, these recommenders like buy this book on Amazon because of the other ones you bought. Those are my wife's books. I have no idea what that is. We share the same account. I don't know what any of that is. Not that you care. Anyway, that's machine learning. It's more simple. Deep learning is a little more complicated. So let's say you got a chef that's going to combine, sushi with Mexican, then that's more deep learning. Breast cancer detection and self-driving object detection. We'll talk a little bit about in dentistry how you're classifying different things through radiographs, like is this plaque or is this inflammation, right? And it's the same thing with this breast cancer stuff. Like, it is scary good that, these like models that have been created on all the different scans and saying like this one was breast cancer, this one wasn't, are like super accurate and very fast. And yes, more accurate than doctors. So it's becoming a tool. It's very powerful stuff. Natural language processing, that ChatGPT comes from that and from deep learning. So now we got like a master chef, but also on a reality show because it can talk to you. It can, talk about the recipes, right? So cool stuff. Here's one. I was like, hey, I've got yellow squash. I've done all the ingredients I got. What can I make? It's like, oh, you can make a stir-fry vegetable soup, veggie hash, whatever, roasted vegetables. I was like, oh, okay, let me do the roasted veggie bake and the stir-fry. It said, here's how you do that, right? This is ChatGPT. Gave me the recipes, right? Oh, I said, I got all these carrot greens. What can I do with them? I haven't had the guts to make anything with carrot greens because I didn't know you could do that. But I was like, oh, well, I said I had potatoes. You didn't put that in the plan. So then it revised the plan, right? It's cool stuff. Just examples of how to use this stuff in your life. And in my opinion, like if you're not using this stuff, you're going to be like, I don't get it, right? Well, you don't get it until you try it. And my thing is like, challenge it to do stuff that you don't think it can do. And then just stand back and see. Because you'll be surprised. All right, and I do have a podcast that's made with AI that has AI people on it called Overfit. And I put like 8 dental research papers in there. So you can go on there. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, and listen to these people. Again, talking about that jargon and stuff to simplify things. Like if there's a concept you don't understand or you want to read a new research paper, but not just yet, you have these people, you can put it, it's this thing called Notebook LM on Google. You put it in there, it'll create like a 10-minute podcast for you. You listen to that, you're like, okay, I get the gist. Cool. Then you read the paper, So you can ease into it. All right, so how is AI trained? I had never thought about this before, but I wanted to compare how much AI knows and how much AI has read compared to America. So I did some research and found that the average American reads about 47 million words over their lifetime. You guys, maybe it's higher, and maybe it's up to 100 million. Cool. But the first GPT-3 was trained on 410 billion words, which is what, 10,000 times more. So it's like 10,000 human lives of reading in this model. That's a lot. And then the newer one trained on over 1 trillion words. So if GPT-3 was Vin Diesel and GPT-4 was The Rock, then the average American would be mini-me. But we were able to create it, so maybe we're not that dumb. It's interesting because I feel like, when you talk to these models, like especially ChatGPT, the language models, it's like talking to like a really smart kid who lives in the basement, never went outside, but has read every encyclopedia in the world. And like Wikipedia, like an insane amount, we could never print it out. Like compared to the old encyclopedias, it's an insane amount of information. Some specific AI training examples. We trained AI on Instagram, became an artist, sorta. We trained it on Facebook. It tried to sell me into a pyramid scam. It's pretty Facebooky. Trained it on MySpace, and it wouldn't stop talking about Murder, She Wrote. Yeah, because MySpace people are old. Hey, does anybody remember what night Matlock and Murder, She Wrote were on? I think it was Wednesday at 8. I should perplex it. I don't know. Anyway, point is, AI is affected by what we tell it, right? It's garbage in, garbage out. The more you inform AI, the more helpful it is. And that'll come to play later when we talk about these machine learning models. Like, can you guys really create them given the scale of the information that's needed? The answer is no. We'll talk about the solution. But you can fine-tune things, right? Fine-tuning is a really cool thing to do with models that already exist. You can put more information in it, put your information in it, and get, basically send ChatGPT to dental school, or even put all your documents in so that it knows more about your practice, right? That's a little bit more involved though. Fine-tuning is pretty geeky. So some examples, right? This is a study from 2020 that basically was trying to classify dental implant brands just by looking at images, right? So it was successfully able to identify just the brand of the implant, right, from all that training. It was pretty cool. There's a study, that study actually. I just kind of skimmed through it, but we're going to see a little machine learning stuff. Basically all the geeky stuff you guys have to know about dentistry. This is a whole other thing, PhD level stuff that requires linear algebra and calculus and probabilities and statistics and all that stuff. I just want you to kind of know what's behind the scenes of all that stuff because it's pretty crazy in depth. So what can we do with AI, right? Now I used to race sailboats and I did pretty well because I had a speedboat. Maybe an unfair advantage. But you know what Warren Buffett says before he invests in a company? He says, does it have a durable competitive advantage? Right? I want this thing to be able to win for a long time. Right? So how do we do that? Competitive advantages are good. AI can be one of yours. We're going to talk about that in light of when you adopt it. That's going to make a big difference in how competitive you can be. I don't know if you guys have heard that old joke. The guy played country music backwards and his wife came home, the truck started working, and the dog came back to life. Great thing. So I decided to try that with other types of music. I played Rush backwards and I got a date. I played Guns N' Roses backwards, got sober. I played Bob Marley backwards and I remembered everything. That's a good one. Everybody gets that out here. All right. I played Def Leppard backwards and it was weird. All I wanted was somebody to pour salt on me. It's really strange. But this is me actually. I don't know who that lady was. I got paired up with her. But this is me and Def Leppard. It was kind of cool, but all I got was that photograph. Reference. Anyway, the point is that new viewpoints can feel backwards, but they might be the one thing that moves us forward. PricewaterhouseCoopers said that AI could automate 30% of repetitive tasks, free up employees for higher value tasks. Right. Here's the most popular applications of AI right now: customer service, operations, security, marketing and PR, content generation. But as we'll see, even more stuff for you guys. I would not ignore this though, this ability. Some of you guys have already talked about it. Using that stuff to create more like blog posts and things like that. Making it easier to create higher quality social posts, even though they're going to still have your own personal content in them. It's good stuff. Now, growing up, my parents and my teacher said, Brian, why aren't you using your potential? You have so much potential. Why aren't you using your potential? What I heard was, we don't know why you suck so much right now, but you better not suck this much in the future. So I listened, and I worked kind of like with the get a job, you freaking loser. Get these messages from the world. So you adapt. And, so I got into consulting and advertising and business and this. And so I basically help businesses achieve their potential. And one of the things I talk about is ubiquity, which is a weird word that means being everywhere. Something that's ubiquitous is everywhere. And we know for your dental practices, it's a little marketing stuff. We want word of mouth. We want referrals, right? But you can't buy something you never heard of, right? When's the last time you bought something you never heard of, like a pizza cutter fork? Right? Or a DVD rewinder. That's a good one. You've got to rewind your DVDs or Blockbuster gets mad at you. So, what about a yodeling pickle? Right? Weird pants included, beer not included, but helps you wear weird pants. $99.97. The inflatable dartboard. No refunds, right? The left-handed coffee mug, because for too long only right-handed people have been able to use coffee mugs, and now we finally have our own coffee mug, thank God. Anyway, And look, your new brick friend. It's not just a brick. It's actually just a brick. We put googly eyes on it. And again, ChatGPT can't spell. It's not just a imaginary friend. This is 100% AI art, spelling errors included. Included. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, it's not in marketing sales. It's not who you know. It's who knows you, right? So the more people have heard of you and heard of your work, and again, back to social media, they've seen what you do and they've seen you and they connect with you personally, the better. So we got to reach more people. By now, you probably figured out this presentation is 45% funny pictures I found online, 20% making fun of young people, 20% making fun of myself, 20% math mistakes. And 5% being respectful to old people. So if you total that up, 110, I'm giving you guys 110% today. I don't want to hear any complaints. All right. What else can we do? We can summarize documents. It's amazing. Like, again, that notebook LM from Google, or Claude or ChatGPT, any of them. You can put a massive amount of information in there and get a summary really quick. It just saves a lot of time. Personalize your emails. Create more content. We talked about writing press releases. This is cool too. Like if you talk to someone, you know, I think I can speak Spanish, but I'm not that quick, right? So I saw this guy one day. He was having trouble with his car. I went over and asked him like, you know, necesitas ayudar or whatever. And he's like, yeah. And then we start talking and like I can't get the words out. He pulls out his phone and then he speaks into it. It's English. I speak into it. It's Spanish, right? So translation, communication. I even used it to recreate my ex-girlfriend, right? Probably a bad idea, but she was exactly like her, right? She said she had a headache and then she immediately logged off and started talking to my neighbor. And I was like, oh, that's why she was an ex, okay. Anyway, neuroimaging and AI, you know, we've seen examples, we'll see more examples of how it can read that stuff, make connections, and diagnose and classify. This is a funny one I mentioned. Like it might be able to tell the difference between inflamed and plaque, but somebody misspelled it on here. Pretty sure there's no plague in those teeth. But, again, spelling. So these AI algorithms and models can explore TMD and the relationship between that, OSA, and other things. And the steps for training a model are basically, you got to have a lot of data. So for example, tons and tons of radiographs. You got to process that data, make sure the data is good, do the analytics, do all these like machine learning approaches, things you don't need to know like logistic regression models and random forests. I like random forests because it sounds like a Cure song. But anyway, you don't have to know this stuff. Like we deploy a model and there are some out there where you can use that for good stuff. We'll talk about it. Now, diagnosing sleep apnea from routine sleep studies, right? Just bringing in AI to help us find those things and quicker. And by the way, it's interesting. There's one study where the deep learning model was able to identify the beginnings of oral cancer sooner than you can really see it visually, right? So early detection. It's important. Even automated prediction of obstructive sleep apnea. You say they take all this data, they're correlating it with macro trauma and headache and sex and stress and bruxism, everybody's favorite. And then that helps them figure out, do they have obstructive sleep apnea, right? The accuracy for this model, this is recent, right? August. It came out 2 months ago. It's very recent stuff. So 80 to 91% accuracy in identifying OSA just from this stuff. It's pretty cool. But these are just tools, right, that'll help you find stuff faster if you're a patient, prevent things quicker, or even just like, oh, okay, I need to look at that. And then you check it. You guys are the experts, right? You need to check because it's not 100% accurate, right? PPG-based detection, pulse oximetry devices, and so on. But let's get more practical for you guys, right? You guys aren't going to become machine learning engineers probably. So there are some examples here, and there may be some vendors here too that do this stuff, but DiagnoCat analyzed 10 million teeth, right? Over 5 years with 55 clinicians involved in the product development. That's one. SharkBit, diagnosis and personalized treatment for OSA, ORAC, Pearl. Any of you guys use any of those currently or heard of them?
Pearl is here.
Yeah, Pearl. Hi, guys. So, yeah, that's a really popular one from what I can see, right? Radiographic diagnosis detection, ROI for your practice, scheduling, dealing with specialist referrals, does everything. You don't even cook your veggie bake. Cool stuff, right? Now, but here's an issue, can we trust AI, right? In 2023, 70% of people said they believe the benefits of AI outweigh the risks. We definitely trust it for education, for recommenders like Netflix and Prime and so on, customer service, good stuff. But now in 2024, people started getting more worried. Is it going to replace our jobs, right? Is it going to take my job? And cyber attacks, there are even recent studies where ChatGPT was able to figure out how to attack different systems. So some concerns, right? Also, as we know, AI creates weird images. This is one where I tried to get it to create AI in dentistry. That one's not bad. I wasn't happy with it. But I said, let's do it with a happy smile, and this is what I get. It's weird, right? And I'm like, can you do one that's between those two? And I get this. It took 31 seconds to come up with this. So there's not always quality stuff. It doesn't always, just like us, we don't always have good ideas, right? I got this one from AI. That's Horsiculus Cage. Nicolas Cage is a horse. That's pretty weird. The Vince Van Gogh action figure I'm pretty proud of, by the way. And it also comes with a removable ear action. That's an educated audience right there. But AI can try too hard to make you happy sometimes, right? Like I was on Claude, and now they all do this, right? But I'm on Claude. I'm trying to come up with some case studies. You know, I use this stuff for keynote development too. So I was like, give me 3 case studies in business of this, you know, specific. And it was like, the first 2 were really good. I was like, that makes sense, right? I need to check that they're real. The third one was like so vague. It was like, you know, an 8th grader trying to make something up. It was like, well, Bill went to Martha and said the copier didn't work, and Bill said, okay, we can make this work. And then we went and we fixed it. And I was like, what is this third one? This is ridiculous. Is this real? It's like, no, you caught me. I made it up. I was like, the AI actually said, no, you caught me. I'm like, why do I need to catch you? Why are you lying? It was like, well, you said you wanted 3, and I wanted to make you happy. It's all under development still, guys. It's new, it's promising, it's powerful, but we got to fact check it because it might just be a robotic Pinocchio. All right. So, and then all the programming work I've been trying to do, there are AI-assisted programming systems now, but like they will mess up your code. They will replace code you didn't ask it to do. It's still a work in progress, right? AI is not always factual, logic, or even accurate. So we need human experts to check it. Now I don't know, if you guys travel, you go to the airports and you see these weird convenience stores that don't have any people in them. Kind of strange. But I went to one, there was one in Dallas that was fully AI. And I walk in there and it's like, hi Brian, how you doing? I'm like, whoa, how does it know my name? This guy was like, I think it used an eye scan. And I was like, that's weird and creepy, but cool. All right. And then I walk around and it's like, hey, Brian, here's that smart water you like. I'm like, that is the smart water I like. That's cool, thanks, man. And then it was like, we got a 2-pack of that Preparation H use. I'm like, I'm not Brian. You got the wrong guy. So AI can get personal data. We have to protect privacy, HIPAA laws, all that stuff, right? We know if we're going to put any data into the AI, it has to be anonymous. You have to take the names out, right? It's important. Now, some people are afraid that AI is going to take over the world. There's going to be a rise of the machines, right? And that's why I'm hoping Microsoft will be at the top of the AI game, because if things go wrong, we'll just restart it. Yeah, and if that doesn't help and we still got these robotic like attack drones coming at us with machine guns, no worries. All you got to do, put a traffic cone on it. I want to tell you there's a difference between narrow AI and general AI. All this stuff that people think of. Now I think AI is the thing that we've known about the longest or thought about the longest that it's actually started to come true. There's nothing like it. They were talking about these golems, which were like robotic like people made out of clay or whatever that weren't real thousands of years ago. Yeah, all the science fiction we've had about this for so long, and it wasn't real. And now it's starting to get real, so we think, oh, it's going to be like science fiction. I don't know. Well, general AI that's like generally intelligent, it's not real, right? None of these things like the TARs, the HAL 9000, even smart rocks, they're not real, right? But with narrow AI, this is what it all is. It's like narrowly focused on one task. It can do this one thing. It cannot, it cannot run your kitchen. It cannot take over the world, right? It can't even program without help, right? So we don't have to worry about that at this point. How do we balance AI and people? LLMs like ChatGPT, they're good at generating content, translating, summarizing, quick responses, but they're bad at new ideas, reliability, reality, math, and reasoning. Here's the thing, like it can create something that's sort of creative, but it's basing it on what its data says is creative, right? These things really are just predictors and probability engines. So they have a model of what reality is, but they don't know what's not real yet. And they can't help you innovate that much, right? All right. So AI, we can use it for brainstorming, quick rough drafts, data processing, pattern recognition, and insights. We still need people for domain expertise, like dentistry, judgment, ethics, creativity, quality control. We can use AI to upskill as well. For dentists, we need clinical judgment, right? AI can't do that, or decision making, patient interaction, complex procedures, continuous learning, ethical oversight. But AI we can use for data analysis, diagnostic support, customer chatbots, predictive analytics, treatment plan assistance, and admin tasks, right? Save us some time. So I want to ask you guys, of all these things, some of these things I mentioned, like Perplexity searches, Site.ai, ChatGPT, fine-tuning, blah, blah, blah. AI practice solutions are the ones like Pearl, right? Notebook LM to create podcasts, smart rocks. Which of those do you guys think would be most helpful for you, like next week? Smart rocks for sure. For sure, that's a given. What else? How would you use ChatGPT? Yeah. Binding stuff. Okay, a lot of uses for that. What else? You guys are just muttering.
Cite to actually cite your sources in blogs.
Yeah. Oh.
Real data. Because ChatGPT is really good and fast at coming up with a lot of topics.
Yeah.
But finding research-backed articles, I'm going to use that.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. What he said was ChatGPT could come up with a blog post for you quickly, but it's not going to be research backed necessarily, or you can't cite the sources. So using Cite for that's a great idea. Any other? One more maybe? Somebody? Sorry. Marketing content?
Yeah, because
yeah.
I personally, for like my Instagram, I'll use ChatGPT to help create a post. So why couldn't I do that for the dental office to get the point across, as well as connect with the overall audience to influence them?
Yeah, absolutely. So for content, for marketing content, believe it or not, some of these they can make a website for you. Just ask it for the code, right? So yeah, and you can challenge it even more. Right on. How do we adapt? There's a lot of new stuff, always, right? Stuff coming down the pike, whether it's AI, other tech, new ideas. Can we try them all? Probably not, right? This is my grandma and my nephew. They were born on the same day of the year, 100 years apart. It's pretty cool. But what most people don't realize about babies is they're not that useful. Right? Babies can't eat without spitting up. They can't walk without falling down. They can't drive a car without causing a huge highway accident. You wouldn't want your baby to adopt a car technology too soon, right? So the question is, when do we adopt these technologies? How do we know it's time? Obviously, if it's becoming a best practice, you should probably also practice it. So that becomes what we'll call the late majority, right? This is the adoption curve for technology. Like 2.5% of people are innovators. They were doing machine learning in the 60s, right? But for most people, especially in business, you're like, I can't waste the time. I don't know if that's going to turn into anything, right? Early adopters, I like to give this example. In 2008, there were about 80 Twitter-like apps. And we only have one now, right? One Twitter, right? So these people that adopt early and they got on the wrong Twitter wasted some time, maybe built a few hundred followers, can't use them, right? So early adopting has its risks as well. Early majority is when I would recommend you would adopt a new technology. There's enough proof that this thing is going to be powerful and it's going to work and people are using it, but not everybody has adopted it yet. Because what happens with late majority? If you wait until half of everybody's already using it, you're behind. How many years behind are you, right? At that point, oh, we spent the last 3 years integrating this into our practice, and somebody's just starting. You have a major advantage with all the things it can do, whether it's marketing, diagnosis, scheduling, etc. And just don't be a laggard. Like if you're not using AI and you're only faxing, you're faxing still. I mean, we need fax for certain things. Sometimes insurance requires or whatever, but that's a laggard. Don't be a laggard. This is the Gartner hype cycle. It shows there's a new technology trigger. We reached this peak of inflated expectation or hype, and I think we've been there already with AI, right? I think we're right here. We're heading to the trough of disillusionment because we're realizing, okay, this is a real thing. We have to really integrate it. It's not perfect, right? So how do we use it? And then we get the slope enlightenment, the plateau of productivity. And again, this is basically where we're at right now. You guys are in the best position. This is the best time to adopt AI. As we do more and more things in business, try new things, we have to have more than one idea, right? If this is this cat's only idea, he's going out of business. You have to be willing to fail, right? Relax, no pandas were harmed in the making of this slide deck. But Michael Jordan said, I failed over and over and over again, that's why I succeeded, right? Now we know there's a GOAT debate. Is it LeBron? Is it Michael Jordan? But with Michael Jordan, we'll just talk about him for now. We know he made all these amazing shots, right? Game-winning shots, championship-winning shots, the shot, right? But he also missed a lot. We've seen the highlight reels, but they don't make low-light reels. All the shots that Jordan missed. Game-deciding shots he missed, right? So he missed a lot of shots, but he took a lot of shots. He made a lot of shots. The thing with Michael Jordan is he was willing to take the shot. So are you guys willing to take the shot? You know what they say in business? It doesn't matter how many times you fall down, as long as you're drunk enough not to feel it. Yep. So we know trial and error. If you have a lot of different approaches, some of them are going to work out great, some won't work out at all, but that's better than having just one approach that fails, right? This is my favorite demotivational poster. It says mistakes. It could be that the purpose of your life is only to serve as a warning to others. That's my Gen X darkness coming out. But you don't want to be that person that practice, right? So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try more stuff. This is my wife and I. We went on a cruise to Mexico, and this is an excursion. We got off, and they taught us to make salsa, and they gave us tequila. That's why we went. Now, I'm going to tell you like a weird story. And I want you to stick with me because it's worth it. Okay? At one point you're going to be like, this is weird. Yeah, it's worth it. So later that year, 2018, my wife came to me and she said, I've got all this abdominal bloating and pain, and I'm a little worried. And for background, I have a 4-year master's degree in acupuncture and traditional oriental medicine. And that's where I met her. She was a teacher. I was hot for teacher. We eventually got married. But when we were meeting and dating, like we were talking about all this stuff, she said, I've had a lot of medical stuff in my life, but the one thing I never want to have is a bowel perforation. Which, if you don't know, some of you probably know. It's when you get a hole in your colon, stuff comes out in there, it's not supposed to be there, you get an infection, sepsis, and you can die. It's a very serious thing. And so she's like, hoping it's not that. It's the one time I've heard someone say, I hope it's gas. Right? So she's waiting and waiting and waiting, and she can percuss. We know how to percuss. It's not hollow. So she's like, I think you got to take me. It's 2 a.m. You got to take me to the ER. So I rush her to the ER. They rush her in a CAT scan. They come out and they say it is a bowel perforation. So they rush her downtown in the ambulance, and I follow and I get to the hospital. They've got her on a gurney. They've got papers. They say sign this and say goodbye to your wife because she might not make it. Hardest thing I've ever had to do. And they take her into surgery. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Finally, the surgeon comes out and he says, we got it. We found it, we cut it, we resected it. We're good. So I gave him a high five. His name was Dr. Blessing. But we weren't really fully out of the woods yet, right? Because when you cut the colon, I told you it's going to be weird. Like when you cut the colon, the nerves are cut, and so it can't do all the movement it needs to do to make things come out normally. So they're trying all this stuff. We're in the hospital room day after day after day. They're trying all these different things, and nothing's working. So day 8, I'm sitting there. We're both kind of like sitting there, and I'm staring into space, and I realize I'm staring at my coffee cup. And I was like, wait a minute. You know what coffee does? It makes you poop. I was like, maybe you should try some coffee. She's like, doctor said no coffee. I said, what the doctor said is not working. She tried it. She tried it. She went in the bathroom. 15 minutes later, she was like, I farted. I'm like, you farted? I'm like, my wife farted. I call my friends on the phone. My wife farted. It was good because it meant colon woke back up. We're good. So what's the point? Sometimes to reach your goals, you got to do something that's weird. Other people think it's weird. Maybe it is weird, but it works. Also, sometimes farting is good. Not now. Not now, guys. All right. Okay. So what's one new thing? We've talked about this a little bit. What's one new thing that you could try in AI next week? We did a little bit of this. Any other thoughts? No, Brian, you only get 3.
A new meal.
Huh?
A new meal. Cooking.
A new meal. Sorry. Yeah, make a new meal. Yeah. One time I did that with my wife. I said, what can I make with these things? And it said, here's 5 recipes. I sent it to my wife, and she's fine, by the way. Sent it, and she knows I tell that story. She's cool with it. I sent it to my wife, and I was like, which one of these do you want? She was like, the fastest one. So I was like, okay, which one is the fastest one? And it said, the soba noodles. So we made the soba noodles, right? It's great. So cooking, the whole point of this entire presentation is cooking, guys. Anything else?
Diagnosis part.
Diagnosis part, yeah. Yeah, I would try it out. I mean, you know, look at the tools. Huh? Marketing, of course. That's a good one.
Quicker explanations of what we're doing, like dumbing down like what our procedures are.
Yeah. Yeah, dumbing down the procedures and things like that for communication. There was another one in here? Yawning? It's for yawning. Okay, that means it's time to wrap up. All right, we're going to wrap up. Anybody have any other questions before I do that?
Is there a good place online that summarizes what each of those things do? You know what I mean? Like you gave us a bunch of them.
Yeah, Perplexity.
Like if they wanted marketing, what's the best one for marketing? Like
that's a good one.
Figure out which is to shortcut the time of which one we should be using.
Yeah, to narrow down which AI tool you should use for each thing, whether it's marketing. I would honestly use Perplexity. Again, go ahead.
For those of us who don't like public speaking, can it do like videos that create?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, there are some sites now. He said if you don't like public speaking, can it create videos? There are some relatively new technologies where you can like have it create an avatar of you, which is kind of weird because like maybe your head is moving, but you're not. So it's not perfect yet, right? And I did one the other day. It was like, oh, clone your voice. I'm like, oh, cool. I could create so many podcasts with this, you know. But then it was like me, but talking little stranger. And I was like, this is not good enough yet. I mean, check them out, and they will get better. But that is a possibility going forward.
I got a question over here.
Yeah.
Is there any type of AI that kind of scribes for you? So like as you're talking to the patient?
Oh, transcribes?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton. Like Zoom will do that automatically. As you do it, real time?
Talking to the patient or like a dentist?
I think there are even, yeah.
I use Notta, N-O-T-T-A.
Nutter?
N-O-T-T-A.
Notter.
Nada.
Don't use Nutter. Oh, Nada?
Doesn't make
Nada. Oh, like note. Okay.
the summary is.
But is it real time? Or is it just later you got it?
No, I speak
Yeah.
in a consultation.
Yeah.
And it's transcribing it, and then at the end of it, you press summary, and it puts it, the most amazing summary.
Yeah.
I couldn't have written it better myself.
Yeah, so Nada.
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 N-O-T-T-A.
N-O-T-T-A. That's one. There's a bunch of them too. And again, use Perplexity. Like, I would say, what are the pros and cons of each one? And it'll go and tell you, you know. Anything else? Why are you so funny, Brian? How about that one? No? Just happened. Anyway, wrap up. 5 keys, the best of both worlds. Value what people value. Engage for deeper connections. adopt winning technologies sooner, use practice-focused AI tools, and keep AI from taking over the world. Try more stuff. That's the last one. Try more stuff. Okay. Last thing. The one thing I want you guys to take from this presentation, if you get nothing else, and it's obvious you've gotten more stuff, but the one thing that I think is most important is that the heart is more powerful than the brain. Emotions are more powerful than intellect and logic, right? This is our dog, Brad Pitt. Thought it'd be cool to name him that because he was so good looking, but then the joke was on me because now Brad Pitt's hanging out with my wife, kissing my wife, right? But, say what? You're hecklers. All right. We still became good friends, right? Because dogs do that to you. They get to your heart, right? I still don't think it's cool to teach your dog to shake hands because they have no idea what they're agreeing to, right? Like my dog's car payment is ridiculous. But here's the thing. I think you know, hopefully, right, that if you go in to a patient or any business opportunity, anything, and you're using emotion and logic, but your competitors are only using logic, like rationality, you're going to win because they're bringing a knife to a gunfight, right? You can't outsmart emotion. Another illustration. Have you ever been in an argument with your significant other, but you're right? You've never been more right. You got all the facts, charts, graphs, research. You're right. But they're crying. Who wins? They do. And why is your husband crying? You can't outsmart emotion. Now eventually, unfortunately, Brad Pitt passed away of canine leukemia. But he lives on in my heart and in my wife's heart because we connected with him at that level, right? And you might have a sports team, the coaches change, players change, uniform changes. They're still right here, right? In your heart. So to get the most from people in AI, go for the heart. Thank you very much.